You see the two quarterbacks next to each other. We're like, and together they're 81.
Oof.
That's tough.
That's pretty good.
Tough, but you got to give it to Joe Flacco. The Joe Flacco came into this game and it was like, oh, I know what to do. I got to throw it to Jamar Chase, but this is what Aaron Rodgers can do.
Right. Go and find Pat Fryerman for the long score. Puts the Steelers up 31-30. But the Bengals would have one more chance given the situation. And Joe Flacco will make the most of it. Here, finding Jamar Chase, crosses midfield, gets out of bounds eventually, first down, stops the clock. Then Joe Flacco one more again. This time looking for his other guy, T. Higgins, down the left sideline. He would catch it, and he's off to the races. Slides down.
Just short of the 5.
That's right, just short of the 5-yard line. They would set up for the game winner from one Evan McPherson. After they centered it up, that's up and through. And that's your game winner, 33-31, your final there.
And look at Joe Burrow rejoicing, hands in the air.
He can't wait to get back. Neither here nor there. The fact that Joe Flacco was absolutely slinging it is something we have to highlight. 23 targets to Jamar Chase, just absolutely preposterous. Chase caught 16 of those passes, breaking his own franchise record. And those 23 targets are the most for any player since Antonio Brown in 2000.
In studio, it's to assess. We say hello, Emery Hunt, alongside Bryant McFadden, here to offer thoughts, and we don't have to go there just yet. I want this to start on a celebratory note of both of these gentlemen, 41 and 40 years old, a combined 54 of 81, 591 yards and 7 touchdowns through the air. Emery Hunt on a Thursday night on a short week. This is the good stuff. Those are two great quarterbacks showing out right now.
Yeah, and they stepped up big in the biggest moment. We are all watching this ball game as a country, and we're watching two guys play their best when everyone is watching, showing you that age is just a number. And I like the fact that they not only played well statistically, but they played well situationally also. You talk about third downs offense, red zone offense. They were excelling in those situations, need to have it situations. This is where they also excelled as well. So you like that they went out there, balled out statistically, but balled out when their team needed the most. Joe Flacco had just a little bit more than Aaron Rodgers.
Mike Tomlin tried to warn us. Some folks were saying, why is Mike Tomlin hating on Cincinnati? Why is he worried about what type of transactions Cincinnati and Cleveland they had going on? He knew it. He knew it, and he said he didn't understand. It didn't make any sense. And most importantly, it was all about Cincinnati being next on the schedule. Because you can say whatever you want to say about Joe Flacco and where he is in this stage in his career, he still is more than a serviceable quarterback, considering high-level resources surrounding him. And that's what he walked into when he became a Cincinnati Bengal. What we saw last week for Joe on the road, basically 6 days being in place there in Cincinnati, was basically the acclimation period for him, getting accustomed to the playbook and his new pass catchers. What we saw tonight was, I'm acclimated now. And all I have to do is just stand upright in the pocket and deliver the goods. And I have the guys that can come down with those said goods at any given time. And that's what he did. Remember what I talked about with my prop for Jamar Chase? I said one thing about Joe Flacco, he is going to target Jamar Chase. Remember, he gave Jamar Chase 12 targets straight off the bus coming into Cincinnati. So what were you expecting for Jamar Chase tonight? Easily surpassing his reception prop. We saw that maybe in the first half. So when Joe Flacco did, to Emery's point, he was just comfortable and he was wheeling and dealing. And when anything was in question, guess who he looked for? Number one. And you know what? That's what every quarterback should do when you're playing in the same huddle as Jamar Chase. Mm-hmm. And when in doubt, look for one.
I will say this, Joe. You know who, we talk about a lot about Joe Flacco's age and Aaron Rodgers' age. You know who looked old tonight? Jalen Ramsey and Darius Slay.
Yeah.
Flacco looked younger than those guys, how they played.
And that's where I'd like to go next here after we do offer some accolade here to Jamar Chase in the win, his 16 receptions, the most in franchise history. So not just going over that prop, but going over any receptions that anyone in that jersey has ever done before. He does it here on a short week with a 40-year-old quarterback. Mac, that is the what of it all. I'm more interested in the how and the why. Talk to me as a former Steelers defender about the standard you did not see met in this game. You get run on by the worst rushing attack in the NFL for 142 yards through the air. It was anything he wanted. Where are the breakdowns right now?
Well, let's start with the guys that put their hand in the dirt, in the trenches. You talked about it. Chase Brown came into this game tonight averaging around 2 yards per carry. Every opposing defense that played against Cincinnati neutralized the running game totally. But Chase Brown tonight, guys, he averaged 9.8 yards per carry. He averaged a first down every time he touched the football. 9.8. Then outside of the running game led by Chase Brown, talk about the comfort that Joe Flacco had to work from. That tells all of us he never was rushed. He was able to go through his drops, his reads, and deliver. That's the thing. When you average that type of number per throw, you're comfortable. You're not rushing. So that's the issue that I have when you talk about the Steelers defensively, when you talk about the communication errors in the second and the third level. It starts and it stops with the guys that put pressure on opposing quarterbacks. What did we see from Pittsburgh last week against Dylan Gabriel? They beat him up. And when they beat him up, they took out the running game. One would have thought they would have had some of the same success we saw last week against a inconsistent offensive line unit by Cincinnati. But little did we know Cincinnati had a game plan in place, and they made sure they protected their 40-year-old quarterback to the best of their ability for him to be at his best.
I'm glad Mac uses the word comfortable, Emery, because comfort is one thing when you're being protected well. Comfort is another thing when it's a 7-on-7 and you're still trying to learn the offense. Man's been in that offense for 10 days. I know they're simplifying, but there's verbiage, there's computing power. We often overlook the ability of a quarterback to do that, especially at this age. We just assume that they're going to walk in and know exactly where to go when. Are you at all surprised of the level of comfort for Joe Flacco in this offense this early?
Not at all, because we saw him hit that bench route probably 5 times in a row to Jamar Chase.
That's week 1 teach tape. We all got that one. Yeah.
But what stood out to me the most, guys, was Orlando Brown, the left tackle, and Amaris Mims, the right tackle. Tip your caps to those guys because they held those edge rushers in check. We thought this was going to be a great party between T.J. Watt and Nate Herbig in the backfield. And, man, Amaris Mims, the young tackle, right tackle, did a fantastic job tonight. And quiet as kept. These two teams played the same game. Yeah. If we look at passing, rushing, red zone, third down, they were nearly identical. But what changed the game for Cincinnati was the 2 turnovers they were able to force. And also, you think back to when this game was 7-0, and it was at 4th and 1 in the second quarter, I believe. And Pittsburgh was going to go for it. They tried to go for it. They got a false start, had the backup, kick the field goal. It's 10-0. That right there ignited the comeback for the Cincinnati Bengals because they went right down the field and scored a touchdown, and then that's when we got the back-and-forth game between these two. So it shows you that, hey, we can compete with these guys. We can stop these guys. We saw their offense get confidence, and then we saw their defense get confidence and turn the ball over. They had many critical plays. Yeah. So Flacco doing his 111th was outstanding because once he realized, hey, my tackles are doing a great job, I got 2 number ones, and the tight end Noah Fenton had a big day. We're all about to eat, and everybody on that offense definitely got their mouths full with the food that he was delivering with that football going around the yard.
A master operator and shows it once again as he goes for 300+, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. It's the 6th time in his career that he's done that, and he's done it with 4 different franchises. Mac, I want to finish with you and on a broader thought here for Pittsburgh because they're now 3-16 on Thursday nights away from home since 1970. This is usually the way that things go. Give me the why in that, but also we're looking at a team that is still the favorite to win their division, but has dropped from -160 up to +120. What does this mean in the grand scheme?
You know what? That first stat, it's just one of those funky stats, man, that just follow the Pittsburgh Steelers. And you don't really know it until you know it, right? When you throw out that stat, because Thursday night is a primetime game. And usually Mike Tomlin on primetime moments, he usually delivers wins. But, I gave the number also during the pregame show. Mike Tomlin is 0-6 on the road on Thursday nights against AFC North opponents. He's 0-6 straight up on the road against AFC North opponents. So he's struggled in these moments, especially on the road on Thursday night. Remember last year, Thursday night, famous Jameis gave him an L on Thursday night in Cleveland. And remember, that Cleveland Browns team was nowhere close to being competitive or relevant. But in that moment on Thursday night in Cleveland, guess what? They wheeled and they dealed, and he found a way to come up with a huge